Aloha, and welcome to Kauai Coffee Company, where we grow, harvest, mill, roast, and package all the coffee you will see today. You're sitting in the largest coffee orchard in the United States. That's right, it's called an orchard since coffee grows on trees. Today's experience will give you a peek into the inner workings of the estate and introduce you to the folks that collectively produce some of the finest coffee in the world.
Hey, my name is John Ching. I am the Orchard Operations Manager here at Kauai Coffee. I've been with the company for 10 years. I grew up in a farming family. My dad is a rancher. My family, they all moved here, they immigrated here back during plantation days, so the roots are pretty deep in agriculture. This field that we're sitting at, this is field 308. So when I first started working, I was hired to plant this field. Everything that went into this field, from starting the seedlings to prepping this ground, this soil, getting all the layouts ready, and all the way up to actually putting the trees in the ground. Before we plant fields, we select what variety we want to plant. So this is a red Kauai tree. So this is Arabica coffee. Basically bud and then open up to a flower, and then from that point, the flower will self-fertilize, and in about 7 months or so, the fruit will be mature.
I'm Fred Cowell. I'm the General Manager at Kauai Coffee. I'm responsible for basically all aspects of production, processing, marketing, and really the entire company. Usually when people ask me what I do, I say I've got the best job in the world. I'm in charge of the largest commercial coffee operation in the United States. It's a labor of love. It's in my blood. It's what my family's done for 50 years, even back to my great-grandfather in the 1870s. Kauai is an origin, just like Kona or Jamaica or Sumatra. We are one of the best growing regions in the world. We produce specialty coffee. Some of our advantages is we've got a very large farm with a fantastic team, and we can do things that other people can't. We're roughly 3,100 acres. Used to be sugarcane. We grow 7 main varieties. We even have test varieties, another 30 of those. We're large enough that it isn't a hobby. It isn't just landscaping my backyard and making some money off of my fruit. We have the ability to do things right with high quality through mechanization that other farms can't. But more importantly, we're in one of the best growing regions in the world that, frankly, people like to come visit. My personal opinion is our team makes us different. We've got a full-time staff that is absolutely dedicated to producing some of the best coffee in the world.
I'm Darla Domingo, and I'm from Paint Rock, Texas. Very small town in the middle of nowhere, and I moved to this island, which is very small in the middle of nowhere, but it's home, and it feels very similar to what I'm used to, and it's a great place to live and raise your family and work. I'm the manager of the visitor center. We get about 900 customers a day. It's always different, it's always busy. Every day is not the same. It's never boring. There's always something going on, and you have so many great people that come in from all over parts of the world, so it's nice to be able to meet them and get to know them, and we have so many repeat customers as well.
My name is Chris. I'm born and raised on Anihau. A lot of happy guys, working for this company. And I feel proud of them. And main thing is just give your heart out for, you gotta love people first before. Just coming in the morning, you gotta do what you gotta do. Bring the product here at the visitor center. Just gotta keep supporting with all the coffee. For the people that come, they need coffee. I feel proud to come work every day.
The Kauai Coffee Estate is one of the only places in the world where you can experience the entire life cycle of coffee, from planting and pruning to harvesting and roasting. We'll show you more about our sustainable farming operations.
The easiest way to think about our annual operations is on a calendar year. So usually beginning in January, the trees are ready to set bloom. The blossoms will be sitting there waiting to pop. The first couple of hard rains that we'll get in the springtime will cause the blossoms to explode on the tree. Also in the early part of the year, January through April, we're pruning. So we'll take trees that have been 5, 6, 7, 8 years in production and we'll prune them back to basically restart their production clock. Every flower that blooms typically has ripe fruit on the end of the branch about 7 to 8 months later. All of the orchard maintenance, all of the fertilizing, all of the pruning, all of the preparation, everything associated with getting that fruit ready to bust off the branch is done in the first 9 months of the year. And then once we go into harvest, we go 24 hours a day for 3 months straight and make sure that we get all of the high quality fruit that we can. Before we begin the harvest, we're actually examining the trees to try to determine when the optimum point to take the harvesting machine into the tree. We want the greatest percent ripeness, we want the greatest degree of ripeness. We're actually evaluating field against field. Once that decision is made, the harvesters will go in and they'll gently shake the tree, gather the fruit, and the fruit is collected in the field. The only thing that comes back to the factory is trucks full of fruit, and the harvesters stay in the field. In fact, the harvesters will stay in the field the entire 3 months, and they'll get care, feeding, gas, lubrication, even a change of driver, all happens in the field on a constant basis. Once the fruit comes into the factory, it's weighed, so we know how much the total mass is that came out of the field that day. It's a big dump truck, and it's just full of fruit, and they'll back out the weight of the truck. The other thing they'll do is as soon as that truck pulls up to the weigh scale, they'll take a sample, a couple of random samples from that dump to figure out what the ripeness percentage is. So typically on a good harvest day, 70% of the beans are going to be ripe, 15% might be underripe, and 15% might be overripe. And that gives us a good indication of how well we guessed on the harvest ripeness. From there, they're separated by density, so the easiest way to separate by density is with water. So they're dumped into a bath. Those that are overripe tend to float. They're a little bit less water weight. And those that are ripe and those that are green will sink. So that's the first separation, is by density. From there, the fruit is squeezed off of the seed itself. The seed is actually where the coffee is. The fruit used to be considered a waste product, but we now consider that a very beneficial compost component. Once the fruit is squeezed off, the bean is left with a slimy seed, and that sliminess associated with that seed has to be cleaned off, and that's done one of two ways. It's either done through a mechanical operation that scrubs the beans against each other to leave them clean, or we'll do it in a water vat that allows the microbiology to take over and literally ferment the sugars away and leave us with a clean seed. Once we're done with that, that gets a pre-dry. Think of a blow dryer with your hair. It just quickly blows all the water off of the seeds. And from there, it either goes onto a drying deck to allow the sun to dry it, or it'll show up in our large vertical dryers and get run through a very slow sauna. About 24 hours roughly, give or take, at a relatively low temperature, about 110 degrees. And what we're left with is a stable coffee bean at about 12% moisture content. It won't mold at that point, it's stable, and we can work with it from there. We'll usually store it right there. The next step is to take the leathery skin off the outside of the seed. That leathery skin is called parchment. So when the parchment disappears, it also goes into our waste stream, our compost pile. We're left with a nice green bean. That green bean is graded for size, for defects, for density. And once that's done, the coffee is certified by the state based on quality standards. And usually it's wrapped in a 100-pound burlap sack at that point. So it's ready for sale. That's where most coffee is traded in the world, is as green coffee. It's been through all of those processes, it's stable, it's graded, it's in a burlap sack, it has a stamp that says Kauai Coffee or wherever else it's from. And then it may be sold or traded at that point, but in our case we maintain control of that, and then we roast it and package it after that. So if you think of coffee quality as a continuum, everything from the varieties that we select as a seed to the way that we grow it, the way that we pick it, the way that we process it, the way that we dry it and hull it, the way that we store it, and then the next step is how we roast it and package it. All of those things have to be done right. One step goes wrong, your quality goes out the window. And at the end of that, we take a deep breath and we start over.
Kauai Coffee Company is one of the only estates in America that has not one, but two on-location quality graders, known as Q graders. We'll show you the training and expertise that goes into scoring coffee.
For me, coffee is experience. It comes from harvesting the fruit, to actually drying the fruit, to roasting it, to at the end cupping it. My name is George De Leon. I am here with Michael Shimatsu and Tim Martin, and today we're going to be doing some cupping. Pretty much what cupping is we're trying to find any defects, any inconsistencies, and the quality of our coffee. It's important because that way it allows us to grade what we're cupping in our coffee, what qualities are fine, what traits, what faults, and all of it at the end just gives you a nice consistent cup. It's usually pretty silent, and we pretty much focus our senses on every single cup that's in here. So when we first started cupping, what we'll do is we'll grade the fragrance. By that, we will shake the coffee grounds that are in there. The reason why we shake the coffee grounds is because we want to unlock the gases that are hidden inside, and we'll score that. We're going to actually pour hot water over this. The water should be between 195 and 205 degrees. So we're going to pour all 4 of them, and we're going to let them sit for about 4 minutes. Once the 4 minutes are done, we'll go ahead and grab our spoon, and we'll actually break the crust. We're letting the gases come out, and from that is where we'll actually catch the aroma to the coffee. A fragrance and aroma equals flavor, so we let it sit and we'll skim the top off. Once we're done skimming all the coffee grounds off the top, we will go ahead and sip it.
The more air you suck in, the better, so the coffee can spread across of your tongue.
We will slurp for the taste and then the aftertaste. Then we'll go ahead and score that. We'll let it sit for a second, and then we're going to go ahead and slurp it again. And then that's where we're going to get the acidity of the coffee and the body to the coffee. Once we do it a third time, it's going to be our overall impression of the coffee and if there's any faults. Once all that is done, then we'll sum up our total score and we'll come up with a score for everybody to share.
And my total score was 81.5.
I came out with an 82.25.
Raw score was 83.
There's some citrus in there, some nuts, chocolate, some spice, and I thought even some lemon zest at the end.
Yeah, I got some sweet, bright citrusy notes, nutty, some spice, and some chocolate as well.
At the end, pretty much, we are well calibrated.
So for a Q grader, our license lasts 3 years, and every 3 years we got to get calibrated again.
A Q grader is somebody who is licensed through the Coffee Quality Institute. They say that there's more professional athletes than actual Q graders in the world.
So when you come to Kauai Coffee, you know that you're getting a perfect cup of coffee. We spend a lot of time going through this quality control aspects of the business, and that's really what we're focusing on.
And find out that all this hard work that's come through it, at the end, you get such a delightful drink that you can take home with you.
When you finish your walking tour today, you're invited to join us in the Visitors Center, where Chaslin will demonstrate small batch artisan roasting.
My name is Chaslin. I am the roast master here at Kauai Coffee. I'm actually the only female roast master through this company, so right on to me. I'm actually going to be showing you guys a little demonstration to how I roast coffee here. With roasting, it's a lot of science and art. You really have to know what you're doing so that you don't mess up your final product, so that people can enjoy the cup of coffee. This is our small batch roaster. This is what we use for us to demonstrate roasting here at our visitor center. When I begin roasting, the first thing that you're gonna wanna do is weigh out the coffee beans. The way that I determine I roast the coffee correctly is by the amount of weight that was lost throughout the roasting. So I need the weight from when it starts. For today's roast, I'll be doing a dark roast. Usually I want to keep it at the most of an 18% weight loss. So I start off with 25 pounds. I'll end up with about 21. I dump in the unroasted beans at the top there. And then inside of our roaster, there's a rolling drum with a heated flame at the bottom. That flame is actually heating the drum as the beans are rotating throughout the roast. And roasting is not like baking, where you set a temperature and leave it there for a certain amount of time. It's as the temperature is rising, so that's how it's roasting as the drum is getting hotter. Now you can see it's more of like a golden, bright yellow color. At first it started off more as like a green. Pretty much at this point it's like halfway through roasting. Roasting really doesn't take very long. Unroasted coffee beans or green beans smells real similar to hay. It has like a grassy smell to it. And then when it's at this point, that's when it gives off more of that grainy kind of granola, what I call scent. And then maybe in about another few minutes, the smell starts to get kind of musky. When the beans begin to crack, it'll start to give off that coffee smell that people's more familiar with. When I notice it's at a certain color that it should be at, whether it's a light, medium, or dark, that's when the coffee will get dumped out into the cooling bin here. Yay! This is like the best part of it all. When it gets dumped out into the cooling bin, you want to make sure that the beans are moving. Just because it's so high of a temperature, the beans can actually catch on fire if they're just sitting. So with this agitator that we have, it's actually constantly rotating the beans so that the heat is being drawn down, and the pretty much these brush is going to be brushing through the beans to give it an even cool. Then it cools for about 5 minutes, and then it's all ready to get packaged and go out for sale. Usually when you walk in the gift shop, you can smell the coffee from the grinding. Out here is when the roasting will give off all that coffee smells.
We're so blessed to be here on the island of Hawaii. It is paradise. It's a beautiful place to be.
It is magical. It's really peaceful.
Kauai Coffee Noka Oi.
What I like to say a lot is we work and live with the last pure Hawaiians in the world. They're here at Kauai Coffee.
And as soon as I started working here, I fell in love with this place. And basically I couldn't see myself working anywhere else.